I have some pretty remarkable video to play for you of Donald Trump years ago now. And it's a video that he definitely does not want you to be reminded of. Before playing it, let me give you the context. Of course, the southern border is turning out to be a very big subject of conversation, an issue in this upcoming presidential election. Republicans are doing everything they possibly can to use it as a tool to attack President Joe Biden. But if we sort of walk through the events of the last few months, we're reminded that Republicans demanded, as a condition for supporting any foreign aid, a bill on the border. They wanted action on the border. They wanted to, quote unquote, secure the border, right? And so senators, Republicans and Democrats got together and worked to craft a bill supported by Joe Biden. It would go on to be supported by the conservative Border Patrol Union. And of course, conservative Senator James Langford was very aggressively for it. He helped to craft it. And so then it seemed like that was going to get through potentially. And Donald Trump decided, no, I want all of my MAGA Republicans to kill the border deal because he prefers hurting Joe Biden politically, not allowing him to get a win on the southern border than actually addressing issues there, which is something that Republicans have been telling us they prioritize, but not so much. And so now it is Republicans currently obstructing solutions to the very problem they spend a lot of time talking about. But even though they're the ones preventing Biden from acting on the southern border, they keep attacking him over it. But how? There's a new talking point. That's how. A president can do it. Unilaterally, they have everything they need to do whatever it is that Republicans want done. Biden can solve all the issues by himself at the southern border, lickety split, and he's just choosing not to. And that's where this video comes in, because again, the new talking point is, you don't need Congress. This bill's not necessary because the president can do it by himself. Well, take a look at this video. Ron Filipkowski on X brought this to my attention. Thank you to him for doing so, of Donald Trump in 2019 while he was president, saying there was a crisis at the southern border and he needed Congress's help.
Americans, tonight I am speaking to you because there is a growing humanitarian and security crisis at our southern border. Every day, Customs and Border Patrol agents encounter thousands of illegal immigrants trying to enter our country. We are out of space to hold them, and we have no way to promptly return them back home to their country. This is a humanitarian crisis, a crisis of the heart and a crisis of the soul. Last month, 20,000 migrant children were illegally brought into the United States, a dramatic increase. My administration has presented Congress with a detailed proposal to secure the border.
So you'll notice that he didn't get on and say, my fellow Americans, I'm excited to announce that as president, I have all the resources and capabilities necessary to address any issues at the southern border. No, it was he needed Congress's help. Now he's saying Biden shouldn't be asking for Congress's help. And he's just choosing to do that instead of doing something that he could do by himself easily, but he's not for some reason. And therein lies the blatant dishonesty and hypocrisy. Now, there's more to the immigration conversation. It's a very complex one and very vast than what I'm about to say, but Republicans care about just a couple of metrics specifically in regard to the southern border. So I will note that there were more border encounters in 2019 when Trump was making that address than any year under Barack Obama. That doesn't mean they say in 2019 Trump was opening the border or something in comparison to Barack Obama. No, of course not. The U.S. president can't control surges in migration. What they can control is how they respond, doing so in a humanitarian fashion, a logistically sound fashion, of course, upholding laws at the border, etc. But now they're singing a very different tune. Also, you were more likely to be released as a migrant under the Trump administration than under Joe Biden's administration. So are there problems? Yes. But who actually wants to address them? Clearly not Republicans. That's what they're making very clear. Again, they're preventing the conservative Border Patrol Union endorsed piece of legislation from getting through. And so they are the ones impeding a solution from being implemented. Now, quickly before getting into a couple clips I have here for you of Joe Biden on this subject, I do just want to remind you that within this conversation, they have a new fear-mongering device, migrant crime, that phrase you'll see all over right-wing media. It's the idea that migrants are causing a surge in crime across the country. Now, of course, there was a record spike in homicides in 2020 under Donald Trump. Pandemic-related conditions definitely contributed to that. And there's been a record drop in homicides under Joe Biden. Crime generally is plummeting back to pre-pandemic levels, 50-year lows in some cities. A random side note, a 2020 study that we talked a lot about found that homicide rates were 40% higher in red states than blue states. Just something to keep in mind. And with that being said, here's Joe Biden calling on Congress to act and calling on specifically Republicans to do so.
In November, my team began serious negotiation with a bipartisan group of senators. The result was a bipartisan bill with the toughest set of border security reforms we've ever seen. Oh, you don't think so? Oh, you don't like that bill, huh? That conservatives got together and said it was a good bill? I'll be darned. That's amazing. That bipartisan bill would hire 1,500 more security agents and officers, 100 more immigration judges to help tackle the backload of 2 million cases, 4,300 more asylum officers, and new policies so they can resolve cases in 6 months instead of 6 years now.
And you can see there, I'll describe for my podcast listeners, James Langford mouthing to himself, that's true, to what Joe Biden said. Now, interesting note, Alabama Senator Katie Britt, who delivered that bizarre response to Biden's State of the Union address as she delivered it, very bizarre. She helped to craft this bill as well, and then voted against it after Trump asked MAGA Republicans to. Very, very strange. Then here was Joe Biden at the border talking about the same issue. And this visit from him, running parallel to Trump's visit, as we've talked about a couple times since it happened, was the most stark, clear contrast between Joe Biden as a candidate and Donald Trump. Joe Biden, Trump, both in the same place, two very different messages. Trump, all about political attacks, dehumanizing, and fear-mongering. Joe Biden about actual solutions is what he's talking about here.
Let me end with this. I understand my predecessor's an eagle pass today. So here's what I would say to Mr. Trump. Instead of playing politics with this issue, instead of telling members of Congress to block this legislation, join me, or I'll join you in telling the Congress to pass this bipartisan border security bill. We can do it together. You know and I know it's the toughest, most efficient, most effective border security bill this country has ever seen. So instead of playing politics with the issue, why don't we just get together and get it done?
And by the way, this popped in my head as I was watching that, so I don't have the examples here for you, but I saw some people on the left responding to that clip, saying that Biden was contradicting himself or something. How could he, on one hand, point out the threat that Trump poses in all these different ways, and on the other, say he could work with Trump? What are you talking about? Cut it out. No, he's saying if Trump actually cared about this issue, he would encourage, along with Biden encouraging, Congress to do the correct thing. He's pointing out that if we both, as he does, actually cared about this issue, then we could do something about it by encouraging Congress to do something about it, Biden signing it into law. So he's just calling on Trump to do the right thing. He's not saying we can be running mates all of a sudden, as some people were really aggravated about. There it is. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure to like this video and click the alert bell.